be in a hurry to sign a contract for Orlando. I think he could survive the next year sitting out.
I think also a real consideration here is Stanley Roberts is a restricted free agent. If someone comes in and gives him an offer sheet July 1st, that gives Orlando 15 days to match. If they can't decide on Shaquille's contract by July 16th, then they have to make a decision on, do they keep Stanley Roberts or do they let him go to keep the money for Shaquille? Could be a problem.
And of course, if you follow this, and this gets very detailed, but it does have to do with what players will play for what teams. You can go over the cap when you sign a free agent. You can't go over the cap signing the draft choice. So therefore, the Stanley Roberts and the Shaquille O'Neal, both former teammates from LSU situation, will be very interesting and complicated for Orlando. Now let's just take a quick look here at the top 5 picks in the draft, the teams that will be selecting the first 5 players. Orlando almost certainly to go with Shaquille O'Neal. Charlotte, they think, will go with Mourning. Minnesota, Leitner. Dallas, Jimmy Jackson. But then comes Denver, and we're not sure about the first 4, but most people feel certain about it. Then Denver, and what Denver does could throw this draft and from 5 through 27 into some kind of turmoil.
Well, a lot of maneuvering on Bernie Bickerstaff's part that he might try to trade down at 5. The word is that he likes LaFonso Ellis at that pick at 5. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But they were maneuvering to try to make some moves, but it looks like they've held firm where they're at.
All right, let's take a look at the guidelines now, or just at least talk about them a bit here so you understand what happens. And since it's been a year since we had the draft, in the first round, each team will have 5 minutes to make the selection. We have 1:31 seconds remaining for Orlando to make their official selection, and we'll get to that in just a moment. In the second round, 2 minutes between. Only 2 rounds in the NBA. And let's go now to David Stern for the first selection of 1992.
With the first pick in the 1992 NBA draft, the Orlando Magic selects Shaquille O'Neal from Louisiana State University.
He said, what, me, the first pick? He walks into the arena, 8,000 fans in here cheering the first selection. In 1985 was the first lottery. Patrick Ewing went into the Knicks. You're looking at the family of Shaquille O'Neal, welcoming him to elite status among professional athletes around the world. 7'1", 300 pounds, only 20 years old, an early entry candidate out of Louisiana State University. He had led the nation in block shots last year. He joins Akeem Olajuwon and Artis Gilmore as the only 7-footers in collegiate history to win the rebound talent. So as Hubie and Doug were telling you, he's already rich. He hasn't played yet. And now Shaquille O'Neal joins the NBA and the Orlando Magic.
Well, big smiles right now in Orlando, to say the least. Shaquille O'Neal is a force inside, offensively, defensively. I'd have to say right now his offense might be slightly behind his defense because he's so raw. He played against so many zone defenses, guys standing in front and behind him. You see his shot blocking ability. He runs the floor. He has great enthusiasm for a big man also, which I think is very, very important. He appears to be a guy who really loves to play basketball.
So he's charismatic, Bob, and he wants to be coached. The big factor here is going to be the attitude. Will it remain the same? The enthusiasm will be there because if everyone is healthy at Orlando, they really have an awful lot of good, young, talented players to surround him.
Well, let's meet Shaquille O'Neal for the first time as a professional basketball player. He's with Craig Sager.
And your first thing was, who, me, number 1? Obviously, drafting you number 1 is a foregone conclusion, but what are the prospects of you signing early or the prospects of you sitting out a year?
Well, patience is the best virtue, and we're going to Orlando tomorrow, and we're going to start the negotiations, and we're just going to take our time. And, as I said before, patience is the best virtue, and we're just going to take our time.
You've been working with a lot of big-name players. What legends of the game have you worked with to improve your game?
Well, I work with Magic Johnson, and, he didn't really tell me much. He said, Shaq, you're a pretty good player. You just need to work on the arch on your shot, and you'll be all right.
One selection that bypassed you was the U.S. Olympic team. How disappointing is it for you not to be a part of that team?
I was disappointed at first. However, Christian Leitner, he is a great player, and I just want to wish Coach Daly
already set a record by flying 50 family members and friends here to join you at the draft. Are you going to take them all to Disney World with you and go to Orlando tomorrow?
Yes, I am, and I would like to say hi to Grandma Irma Harrison. I love you.
Okay, they're waiting for you back there in the Love Shack. Congratulations, Bob.
Thank you, Craig Sager. They are, by the way, already talking about changing the name of the arena in Orlando to the Love Shack. If they don't officially change it, you'll be hearing it called that a great deal. So they could have twin towers down there if the Orlando Magic can work out the business details of signing both Shaquille O'Neal and Stanley Roberts. Now, coming up next will be the Charlotte Hornets. They will draft second in the draft. 250 pounds. Went to Indian River High School in Chesapeake, Virginia. He is 22 years old, was Big East Player of the Year last year. He averaged 11 free throw attempts a game in only 32 minutes, too. So you can see when he got the ball down on the box, he was an offensive force, and he'll be going to the Charlotte Hornets. Entering the arena now to the applause of the 8,000 here as you look at his family and friends. Charlotte's already an exciting place to watch NBA basketball. When this gentleman suits up there, it'll get even wilder. It'll be interesting to see those two teams. Matter of fact, one of our scheduled TNT telecast games this year will be Orlando and Charlotte. So that'll be quite a matchup here with the two rookies, Mourning and Shaquille O'Neal. As we look at this, I want to ask both of you gentlemen about this. Shaquille O'Neal played on a team that didn't win much in terms of national championship and national rankings at LSU. Most of the great centers, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Artis Gilmore, Patrick Ewing, Mourning, have played on very successful programs. Does that say anything negative about Shaquille O'Neal and more positive about Mourning?
No, I really don't think so. Let's face it, no one is holding that against Shaquille O'Neal in his negotiations. The man is blessed with incredible talent. But right here, Mourning is going to be a force. He was an outstanding high school player. He laid a little dormant there at Georgetown for a while. But when you're talking about rebounding and shot blocking, he has a nice game with his back to the basket. He went into Georgetown as an offensive player. I like Mourning because he will now erase the mistakes of the pressure defense of Charlotte, block up that middle for them, and allow them to really get out and pressure the ball. They will become a much better defensive team with him at that position.
And Alonzo Mourning is with Craig Sager right now.
And I hate to tell you, Bobby's already studying. He has Charlotte's roster right here with him. You said you're glad you got that out of the way. Was it, you know, most players a time of speculation. You knew where you were going. Is this more of a time of reflection on what it took to get here?
Well, I was really anxious, very anxious up to this point. The excitement was there, but it kind of subsided based on the fact that I had a strong feeling I was going to know where I was going to play. And I'm just really excited that it's over with, and I'm ready to go on.
As a junior at Georgetown, you got into a shuffle for playing time with Dikembe Mutombo. The best decision you ever made was sticking around for your senior year.
Well, I think it was the best decision and the smartest decision I ever made in my life. And I can attribute that decision-making to my family, coaching staff at Georgetown, and just the overall support that I've had over my 4 years.
Now with Larry Johnson, Kendall Gill, when you lead Charlotte to the playoffs next year and you're going against the Knicks, Patrick Ewing, where does John Thompson sit? Which bench, yours or Patrick's?
I think we have to flip a coin in that situation. I'm really excited about playing in the league, playing against Dikembe and Patrick, based on the fact that we played against each other throughout the summers, it's really going to be exciting.
You like Charlotte?
Oh, yeah. It's a beautiful city. I had a chance to visit. The fan support is there, and it's close to home, so I'm a Southern boy, so it's pretty much home for me.
Okay, congratulations. Back to you, Bob.
Alonzo Mourning, the second pick in the 1992
NBA draft. The Minnesota Timberwolves select Christian Laettner from Duke University.
And you see Christian Laettner, who's standing by in La Jolla, California, practicing with the U.S. Olympic basketball team, holding up his jersey. As Charles Barkley told Christian Laettner at practice just the other day, get used to playing with players that may not be quite as great as this collection you're playing with here in La Jolla with Barkley and Ewing and Jordan and Magic and Bird and the like. But Christian Laettner out of Duke University will be going to the Minnesota Timberwolves. So Christian Laettner, to just remind you, 6'10", 239 pounds, averaged 21.5 points a game, nearly 8 rebounds, and shot 56% from three-point range. And Doug and Hubie, that's one thing to bring up, is this is not really a post-up guy. This is a man who can score from the outside.
I love his versatility. He's tough. He does what it takes to win basketball games. He's got a little chip on his shoulder. He's not a guy that everybody loves. You heard them booing in here. But what he does, he wins. And I saw probably 6 or 7 games this year where he stepped out on the floor and hit critical three-point shots on the road to win basketball games. I liken him a little bit to a little bit more athletic version of Jack Sikma. I think he's going to have three-point NBA range, and I think he's going to be a very good rebounder.
And Hubie, let's talk a little bit about the inside game of Christian Laettner. People wonder if he is physically strong enough to bang down inside.
Well, I think his biggest asset is the fact that he can play out to 20 feet, and he can play high post. He's an excellent passer, and he is a surprising rebounder. Pan American Games last year, he was the only player in the United States team that could compete with all of the older ball players playing on, the South American ball clubs. And I was very impressed with him because he can rebound in traffic. And when you think of the threes, he was the second leading three-point shooter in the NCAA last year. And that's quite a stat.
Now, we said that Christian Laettner is in La Jolla, California. Let's go meet him. He's with Ernie Johnson, Jr.
Thank you, Bob. And he really misses his fan club out there in Portland, too. Christian Laettner, nice going. Congratulations on being the 3rd pick in the draft.
Thank you.
What do you bring to the table here? These guys have talked about it. How do you feel about going to Minnesota?
Well, I feel very good about it, obviously. Minnesota is somewhere I want to go, and I'm looking forward to the challenge of going up there and helping the team win.
I talked to your dad earlier today when he was trying to go back and think, when's the last time Christian ever played for a team with a losing record? It's hard to figure. I don't think you ever have. How does that enter into things and a team that really is a long way away at this point?
Well, what it means is just we're going to have to be mentally tough, I think. Losing 4 or 5, 6 games in a row will be tough, but we'll have to stick together as a team and hopefully be able to win 4 or 5 games in a row. And when that happens, the city's just going to go wild. Once we start winning games, the Twin Cities area is going to love it up there.
They have great fans up there, and they fill up that Target Center. Now, Bob Neal has Doug Collins and Hubie Brown, of course, back there in Portland. They want to fire away at you guys. Go ahead.
Well, Christian, first of all, congratulations. And I guess the first question is, what have you learned in a couple days being out there with the great players, and maybe what areas do you think you're going to have to improve on as you go to Minnesota?
Well, I've learned a lot, Doug. Playing with these guys has been great for me. Going to Minnesota is probably going to have to be a learning experience where I got to learn how to work with these different types of players, with the Poole Richardson, the Doug West, Luke Longley, kids like that. It's going to be difficult because they're excellent players, and they're new people that I have to get adjusted to.
Christian, congratulations on Player of the Year of college basketball. We go back a long way at the camp days, but I just want to ask you, how do you feel about the rap that when people attack you, they say they question your low post game with your back to the basket? How do you feel about it?
Well, Hubie, that kind of bewilders me because when I was a sophomore and a junior, I was a pure center for Duke. And what I did was I averaged 17, 18, 19 points a game at Duke with everything being back to the basket moves. So I really don't understand that, but I think it happens because I don't have too many muscles on my upper body and I look slim, which I understand, but I've been fighting that my whole life, and what it means is I just have to go out there and try to prove myself again.
Well, when they see you knocking in all the threes all the time, they kind of think that because it's a sensational shot that's the only place you play.
Well, exactly, and what that is, that's just another facet of my game that I like to take advantage of. But I can play inside also, as you'll see.
Hey, Christian, Charles Barkley was with me in the studio during the playoffs. He said, we're going to kill him out here in La Jolla. It's going to be real rough on the guy. Have they been rough on you?
They've been rough on me in practice in the sense that they've been playing as hard as they can against me. But besides that, it's been great. All the guys have been very cool, very friendly, and I hope the rest of the NBA is like that, because if they are, I'm going to have a great career and enjoy myself a lot.
One more time, let's see the jersey. Christian Laettner, the newest member of the Minnesota Timberwolves here in the 1992 draft. Now let's go back to Bob Neal in Rip City.
And he'll have to get used to only winning about 15 games. Maybe he'll double that by the time he goes to Minnesota.
Pick in the 1992 draft, the Dallas Mavericks select Jimmy Jackson from Ohio State University.
Blackman, who's with us here in Portland. He has family members with him, as do most of the players are here. His dad, James Jackson Sr., and his mom, Sandra Jackson, with him. Jimmy Jackson from Ohio State, 6'4", 220 pounds, hometown Toledo, Ohio. Jimmy Jackson is 21 years old, Big Ten Player of the Year for the second consecutive season. So three big men go, O'Neal, Mourning, and Leitner, and then the guard, Jimmy Jackson, out of Ohio State. Dallas just today traded Rolando Blackman to the New York Knicks for the 1995 New York pick. So Jimmy Jackson's going to have an opportunity, to say the least, in Dallas.
Well, he's not going to sit, but with Blackman gone, they're going to expect him to be a starter, probably play anywhere from 30 to 35 minutes. There's a few things I like about him. First of all, he's a tremendously unselfish player. He's versatile. He can post, maybe play three positions. I don't see him being a big-time point guard, but I think he's capable of playing it up on top of the floor. Excellent interior passer. I think right now he's a streaky shooter, but he's a little bit like Oscar Robertson. Then he has a 15-footer. He'll back you down to 10 feet and shoot the ball over top of it. He's got a pro body. And I think that Dallas has done great. I think he's going to do well out there, and I think they're going to really like the way he approaches his game.
See, I like that statement up there. He makes everyone else around him better, Bob. From 18 feet down, he can get to where he wants to go. And then he will make the pass in traffic, and at the end of the game, he will take the big shot for you. He relishes the pressure.
Now let's meet Jimmy Jackson. He's with Craig Sager.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, you had a great collegiate career, one that could have continued another year instead of ending with that overtime loss to Michigan, a game away from the Final Four. How emotional was the decision, and what were you thinking about walking up here?
Well, first of all, it was so emotional because my teammates back at school were so close. It was a family atmosphere, and when I saw them that day, when I announced that I was going to leave, that was one of the toughest decisions or statements that I made. And that overtime loss got to me, but you know, Michigan is a great team, and they played well that day.
You led the Buckeyes in scoring and rebounding, second in assists. What role or what position do you feel you will be playing with Dallas?
I think the two-guard position will fit me just fine because of, you know, different players have redefined that, like Michael Jordan. It's not just a shooter now. It's more of a scorer, rebounder, and assist guy. So I think that's really what they're looking for me to play.
And after that trade of Rolando Blackman, they expect you to step in right away. Back to you, Bob.
With the fifth pick in the 1992 NBA draft, the Denver Nuggets select LaFonso Ellis from the University of Notre Dame.
So no funny twist to the draft so far. LaFonso Ellis' stock had gone down as a collegiate player. He was one of the most highly recruited players coming out of high school to Notre Dame. After John McLeod went to Notre Dame as head coach, LaFonso Ellis' game really improved and his stock rose, and I'm sure that he's appreciative to John McLeod, along with himself and his family, for elevating his game, and now he's the fifth pick in the draft.
Well, you know, when he came out of high school, he played head-to-head versus Alonzo Mourning on 2 occasions, held his own, if not outplayed him. He has been blessed with great talent. Now, there's another guy that through a few years lay dormant in college. He gave you double-figure points, double-figure rebounding. And then when McLeod came in there, John McLeod, he upped his game this year. You know, the solid 17 points, the solid 13, 14 rebounds. He can hold his spot, and they had to protect themselves because of the Cadillac Anderson situation, because he might fly the coop. But if they signed Cadillac, who had an outstanding season with them, you come in with LaFonso Ellis to join with Mutombo and Macon and all of the other young players that they have there. They are really putting together a very solid nucleus.
Well, you think about their front line now. You've got Reggie Williams last year, who came and played very, very well. You've got LaFonso now as a power forward. You have Dikembe Mutombo. You have a young Mark Macon. This is a very young team, and they have a young coach now, Dan Issel. It'll be very interesting with a young team, a new coach. They have a lot of opportunities now to move up, but this young man, UB really tested well with all the pro camps that he went to. His stock just absolutely soared. There was many people thought they could get him as low as 10 when it first started out, moved all the way to 5. I think the real key there, great hands on his rebounding.
See, also he can run the floor, which is a major asset for a player at the 4 position. He's a terrific talent. I think he's going to do well for Dan Issel.
All right, let's go to Craig Sager now, who is with LaFonso Ellis.
Well, LaFonso, recruiting season all over again. You took 11 visits after this season. Is Denver the place you thought you would go to?
It was tough in the beginning. I really had no idea where I was going to go. I just tried to take the visits with an open mind and go out and try to perform as best I could. The knock was that I couldn't shoot the ball from the outside, so I went in on a mission to try to show those people that I could really shoot it from the outside.
Doug and Hubie were talking about how your game improved under John McLeod after getting to a point where it was almost leveling off. What was the difference? What did he do?
He came in, opened up the floor quite a bit. We were able to get the ball off the backboard, kick it out to the guards, and fill the lanes, and I think that was one of the things that has me here today.
I saw you took your 10-month-old daughter, Alexa Emily, on a boat ride last night here in Portland. She enjoyed it?
We had a good little time. We tried to take our fishing rides out, but they wouldn't let us throw them out, so we had to try to wait for a little bit.
All right, take it to Denver. Back to you, Bob.
With the 6th pick in the 1992 NBA draft, the Washington Bullets select Tom Gugliotta of North Carolina State University.
There is Tom, 6'8 and a half, 240 pounds, went to high school in Huntington Station, New York. He is 22 years old. First team All-ACC. Ranked 2nd in the conference in scoring, 1st in rebounding, and 1st in three-pointers made per game. Very enthusiastic welcome from the crowd here in Portland.
Well, his dad is a coach. He's a very heady player. He's intelligent. He has an inside game, outside game, and the big thing is he can create off the dribble and make the pass. So he becomes a very valuable player for you when you put him in the passing game that they're running at Washington.
So no surprises so far, pretty much how Hubie and Doug saw this going, 1 through 6. Orlando through Washington, and Gugliotta now joins the Washington Bullets. Doug, your thoughts on this young man?
Well, I really like him because he's gotten better every year, and I think that when you're a pro scout or you look into a young man, is he continuing to get better? He's getting better. The thing I like about, too, he played on a bad team this year, and he competed. He played very hard. He never quit during the season. He's an excellent three-point shooter. You're going to see it here. He has a pretty quick release. When the shot clock winds down, they put him at the top of the floor. He creates. And as I talked to the Washington people, they loved his post passing. They thought he extended the floor and got the ball into the post very well. So he is going to do a good job of helping along the front line of going now with Purvis Ellison. They're going to have to re-sign Harvey Grant. And now they're starting to get some pieces in place there with that front line as well.
And let me ask both of you about, is he quick enough to play the small forward?
Well,
what
it
do you
doesn't
think?
matter because when you have Gugliotta on one side, Grant on the other, whoever is better defensively, they can play the small forward. So if it's Grant, it could be Grant. And it doesn't really make a lot of difference because there are some teams in this league, they have a big, tall, strong small forward, and he can very easily match up. It's a terrific pick for them. Really is.
Let's meet Tom Gugliotta now. He's with Craig Sager.
Well, thank you, Bob. First of all, Tom, you led the ACC in rebounding, also in three-point attempts. Chances are in the NBA you can't do both of those. Where do you see yourself playing?
Well, I think that's one thing the NBA teams are looking at me for is to do both on different nights. I think I can be called upon to play the 4 position depending on matchups, and I also think I can play the small forward spot. So I think that's one thing that I'll be able to do in the next level.
After averaging just over 2 points a game as a freshman at NC State, can you possibly envision that you'd ever be sitting here?
No, not like this. This is a part of a dream come true, and I'm just so excited. I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad I put myself in this position, and I also realize how lucky I am to have done it.
Having grown up in a household where the father is a coach, obviously you're a smart kid. What do you have to work on in your game, do you think, in the pros?
Well, playing in the ACC is a great league, but I think every player is going to have to adjust their game a little bit to the next level and obviously become more physical. And, when I'm called upon to play guard the small forward spot, obviously you're going to have a lot better foot speed. So I'm going to have to do other things too, but I think that's a major point of emphasis for me this summer.
You got a lot of fans already in Portland. Good luck.
Thanks, Craig. Coming up next, where the top prize in the draft was College Player of the Year, Larry Johnson of UNLV.
The Charlotte Hornets select Larry Johnson from University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
Johnson would go on to win Rookie of the Year honors, but never forgot the emotions he had on draft day.
The feeling and everything is so great, and you're so much on an emotional high that it never leaves you. I mean, you walk around, and still now, you walk around being the #1 pick in the draft, and everybody is just looking at you as being the #1 pick in the draft, and that's how they titled you. And just having that title and walking around with that was just a great feeling.
Pick in the 1992 NBA draft, the Sacramento Kings select Walt Williams from the University of Maryland.
Walt Williams, who is here with us in Portland in what they're calling the Green Room, there with his family and friends. We're there to wish him well, and this is exactly where most folks thought Walt Williams would go. 6'6" and a half, 227 pounds. His hometown is Temple Hills, Maryland. He's 22 years old, first team All-ACC, was a finalist for the Naismith and the Wooden Awards, ranked 6th in the nation in scoring, averaged 29.5 points a game in the ACC. Walt Williams goes to the Sacramento Kings. There was some question whether or not Walt Williams would go to Washington. Obviously, he's from the Washington, D.C. area. When they went with Gugliotta, that made it relatively simple for Sacramento to decide to go with Walt Williams. See the anticipation, the question marks on the faces of these young men, and the pure joy in the eyes of the family. A dream come true for